everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie, Andy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica. Not in Vegas anymore.
Yeah, we're not in Vegas anymore, unfortunately. But we are here, and it is time for our 1-minute book recs where we go over all the books that we've read in the past week with 1-minute synopsises. But because we were in Vegas, you're getting the last 2 weeks because we didn't really read that much while we were gone. And Mandy had parent-teacher conferences all this week, so she didn't read this much either because, that was time-consuming. And I had a hard time getting back into the groove of things because we were no longer in Vegas. So, buckle up. Let's do this. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway. Mandy, you're up.
All right. We have 9 minutes signed by Beth Flynn. This is an amazing book. You're going to want to make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you can be entered to win this. When we reach 750, we will be giving this book away. You can get an extra entry if you follow us over on Instagram. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on Instagram.
Yay! We also have a TikTok too.
We do.
We do. It's there. Okay. So let's talk about our reading weeks. How was yours? Other than being in Vegas with me, which was the highlight of your month, 6 months. How was it?
My reading week was pretty good. My reading 2 weeks was pretty good. I read 13 books. I was actually surprised I got that many done because literally the entire time we were in Vegas, I did not complete a book.
I didn't complete a chapter.
No, me either. I read on the plane there and then on the plane on the way home.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much the only reading I got in then. So I was surprised to see I'd read 13. And most of them were pretty good. I have a few 3 stars, but I got some 5 stars too.
And let's be honest, when we say we read on the plane, our flights were roughly 2 hours, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
Mine was just like 15 minutes longer than yours. So it wasn't like we had all this time to read on the plane. So
no,
that was it. So I read 12 books, but one of them was a trilogy. So that means I'll have 10 to talk about. So I had a really hard time this week getting back into the groove of reading just because when you get back from vacation and I wasn't working, one day I had to go to the office this week. So I wasn't like back on my normal schedule. And so it was really hard.
Well, I had to get on my normal schedule.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But
also, check out my cup.
I can't read it. What does it say?
Well, I can't find
Jingle bells.
Yep. Merry Christmas.
I do not want to hear any complaints about the fact that it's cold outside. You did it. Getting ready for Christmas too early.
Actually, it's like pouring down rain here.
So tell us about your first book.
Okay. My first book is called Shiver Me Timbers by Cassie Mint. So I read this right before Halloween. It was a perfect Halloween read, but it's also, you can read it outside of Halloween as well. So this is about Duncan and Ellie. Duncan is Ellie's father's best friend, but her dad has passed away several years prior to this. And she was 19 when this happened, but she really didn't have anywhere to go and was kind of just, really, devastated. Her dad died. And so Duncan let her move in with him. Well, she has a huge crush on Duncan. So they live together, and then they also run this boat together where they take people out to like see these ghosts and wreckage and things like that. So that's where the Halloween vibes kind of come in. But she is like in love with Duncan, and this is a novella, so things happen very quickly. And she's trying to get him to admit that he likes her too, because she feels like he does, but he doesn't want to act on it out of respect for his, deceased best friend. So it was a lot of fun to read.
That's why you kept saying Shiver Me Timbers when we were in Vegas all the time. You answered so many questions.
Did you hear the timer go off?
No.
Okay. It went off, but I didn't hear it. But right as I looked at it, it switched to 0.
Okay.
So I'll
just watch that.
Okay.
Watch it. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so the first book that I read is Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife by Julia Wolf, who was an author that we met in Vegas. This is my first Julia Wolf book, even though I think she's a fairly popular author. This is about Luca and Saoirse, and this is an arranged marriage. So Luca's dad had some kind of medical issues, and so now he has been made the CEO of the company. So he's a billionaire. And then you have our Saoirse. She is like, she has her degree, but she'd rather temp and she'd rather move around and not plant roots anywhere. She's just one of those free-spirited kind of people. But she doesn't like to say no. She has this I'll say yes to anything once type situation. And Luca is told that he needs to get married. He needs to clean up his Playboy image and get married for the sake of the company. And he and Saoirse have mutual friends, and they kind of have this hate to love thing going on in the beginning. And he proposes that she becomes his wife for 2 years. They sign a 2-year contract and get married. And that is the premise of this book. And we see how that plays out. I thought it would be a little bit more angsty than what it was. It was still a 4-star read. I still loved it. I was just kind of waiting for the, hey, break my heart, and nobody did. So, yeah. Okay, what's your next book?
My next book is Sexy Mother Pucker.
All right.
By Lily Valentina. And this is about Brendan and Laura. Brendan is a hockey star. Laura works for the hockey team, and so she's around quite a bit, and she helps Brendan out with his daughter. His wife passed away, and so he is raising his daughter on his own, but he really is struggling to decide that he's ready to date again. It's been a long time, but he's just not really sure he wants to do that. But his in-laws are very focused on the fact that his daughter needs like a strong female in her life. She needs a mom. And there's like this little bit of a hint that they might start to threaten him a little bit and try and get custody of his daughter because he's traveling all the time and he's not in a relationship. There's no mother figure. And so he kind of panics about that and decides to ask Laura to be his fake girlfriend for Thanksgiving weekend while they go to visit his in-laws. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry. Whoa. And so that's where that goes from there.
Okay. So my next book was my Halloween read that I did just before we went to Vegas. And this is Willing by Izzy Sweet and Sean Moriarty. And it's really hard for me to hold this up. Okay, so we're gonna stick it up here. So this is a vampire romance. So you have Asher, who is our vampire, and he is kind of chilling in bed one night, torturing the human that he's got in there that he's draining full of blood. And then all of a sudden he has this vision of like being born, or like seeing a newborn, the world through a newborn's eyes. And that is when Chloe is born. Chloe is his fated mate, and she is human, but she has, or somewhat human, but she has this mark on her thigh that indicates that she is his chosen one. Like she is going to be his partner in crime, his fated mate. And so because of this, the Order of Saint Benedict is like, vampire hunters, and they have intercepted her at birth. Her mom dies during her birth, and so she is taken and raised by this religious sect and taught how to avoid all the vampires. And this is him hunting her, him finding her, and then him claiming her. I gave it 4 stars. I was probably maybe even a little higher. I'm still thinking about this. I loved this. I love this. It's the first in their series. And so like UN series. They're writing the second book right now, and I've been talking to her this week, and I'm so excited for it. So yeah, ready to go.
If you're still thinking about it, it's probably higher than a 4-star.
It's got to be higher. Now I'm sitting going, it's probably a 5. I need to change it in Goodreads because I'm still thinking about it, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen with this character. Oh, I wonder what's happened to that one. And there's been a couple of Izzy Sweet and Sean Moriarty's that have just like got us good. So that's that one MC that we really love, where she has
Unless you're thinking about it in a way where you like absolutely hated the book.
No.
Not because you hated what the characters did, but like the writing and that sort of thing. Unless you're thinking about it that way,
the writing was great.
Yeah.
And I was looking at some of the reviews, and the reviews do not do the book justice at all. People are just rude and If you don't like it, don't read it. If this isn't your trope, then don't read it. If you don't like dark, paranormal,
Yes.
don't read it, and don't knock the authors for writing a book that is not your genre. Move on.
Yes. Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All
Okay.
right. So, Jessica, my next book, I was so excited about this book, and it wasn't supposed to come out until like October 27th. And then Neva Altai dropped it early.
Yes, she
So,
did.
I had to change all of my reading plans and
Mm-hmm.
read book number 8, Silent Lies. So, this is about Drago and Sienna, and they both have a lot of trauma in their past that they're kind of still trying to deal with. And Sienna gets called by the Dawn and is asked, basically more like told, that she is going to marry Drago in an arranged marriage and she's going to spy on him. And she agrees because she really doesn't want to be alone, she lives with Arturo, her brother, but she feels like she needs to get out of his way so he can move on with his life because he raised her and her sister from the time they were little. And so she's like, I need to move out and like let him have his life back. So she agrees to this. So she marries Drago. Drago, it has some hearing loss, but not a lot of people know about it. So he can hear certain sounds, but like female voices are really hard for him. So he has to do a lot of lip reading, but very few people know about this. So that's like where he falls into the Perfectly Imperfect series. So Sienna is married to Drago, and her sole purpose of being there is to spy. But Sienna just really wants to find a home and to be loved and to not be alone. And so they both kind of start to fall for each other. And Drago knows why she's there, and she knows why she's there. So it kind of just complicates everything. I loved it. It was 5 stars.
Awesome. My next book was kind of a letdown. You and I talked about this quite a bit.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I was a glutton for punishment by reading it anyway.
Oh, now I know what book you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not reading it.
No.
No. Even before you told me it was a letdown.
And
No
I'm going to tell
desire.
you right now, I didn't cry again. I didn't cry with this one either. Where the Ice Queen, I can still hold my trophy for Queen Bitch, apparently, because I didn't cry. Okay, so the book that I read, the book that we're talking about, is One Last Rainy Day by Kate Stewart. This is the latest release in the Ravenhood series. You have to read all the Ravenhood books to get to this one. This is the story as told by Dom's perspective. So I am a Dom girl. Not a Dom girl, but I'm a Dom girl. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was so excited. I know what happens. Obviously, you've read the Ravenhood trilogy. You know what happens. I knew that it was going to crush me in the end, but it didn't. And it didn't because the first half or more of this book was so choppy and jumped from scene to scene. And we're reliving the whole Ravenhood series from Dom's perspective. And it was a hot mess. I'm sorry. It was. Did I enjoy being back in their town? Yes. Did I enjoy seeing my favorite characters? Yes. Did I enjoy hearing Joe Arden voice Dom and Tobias and Sean? Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, of course I did. But it was a mess. It was a mess, and it didn't deserve more than the 3 stars I gave it. I mean, I'm sorry. Nobody come at me. It's my opinion. It was a mess.
I'm sure you're not the only one who feels like that.
No, I mean, I'm looking at it on Goodreads, got really high views, and I think that's because a lot of us were just very excited to get back into this. But we really don't see any new revelations other than realizing how selfish some people are. But I mean, no, we're good.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We're going to give honest reviews because if we don't, then what's the point of our channel?
Yeah.
And
There are still
sometimes
our
we're
opinions.
going to agree with people and sometimes we're not. And you and I have disagreed on books before,
Yes.
and that's totally okay.
Yes.
We give each other crap about it more than we would give other people that we don't know. But that's because we've been best friends for 20 years.
Somewhere around in there. The thing is, too, is we also want to be very respectful of the authors, because this is their writing, and this is their craft and their art, and these are their babies. But at the same time, like, this book didn't work for me. It probably worked for others, but we're going to give our honest opinions about them without trying to bash the artist.
Well, and sometimes, and my next book is going to be a perfect example of this. Sometimes we read a book and it can just be the book itself. It can be our
Mhm.
mood. It can be like a whole bunch of different things, and it just doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, for example, I read a QB Tyler book a while ago and I just really didn't care for it. And I kind of just was like, I don't know about this author. Well, then you read one of her books and you really liked it. So I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, this sounds right up my alley. And I read it and I loved it. And
Yeah.
so after talking with some people at Vegas, I found out like that one book that I just didn't care for, her other books really aren't like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we read one book and we're like, eh. And then other times, like, it's just because it was just that one book wasn't for
Yeah.
us.
Well, and
And
like,
I can think of several authors where I've
I know.
read one of their books and I'm like, wait, is this the same author?
So just, I mean, as far as like Kate Stewart goes, I've never read a Kate Stewart book that I haven't loved. Like I said, this one was just, and I think this one, it was choppy because of what it was. We were seeing the Ravenhood trilogy being played out in a book from somebody else's perspective, and we were just getting the behind the scenes of him and what happened with him. And I think that's why it was choppy. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to run out and read the next Kate Stewart, because I will. So it just depends. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. But I'm telling you, this one did not work for me. So, so you tell me about your QB Tyler book next. I know what it is.
Yes. Okay. So my QB Tyler book is Forget Me Not. And you read this just like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
This was a 4 to 4.5 star for me. I really enjoyed it. It's about Olivia and Bennett, and they have like this fairy tale love. Like they're so in love with each other. Everything is wonderful. But then some things happen in their marriage that cause it to kind of fracture a little bit, and Bennett ends up cheating. So they end up being separated, going through a divorce. When Bennett is in an accident and he loses his memory, she gets the phone call. So she goes to the hospital because, you know, he's still her husband. She still cares about him a lot. She's just devastated, like, by what happened. So she shows up and Bennett has no clue. The last, I think it's like 3 years of their marriage and the, you know, the divorce and stuff is gone from his memory. And so he just remembers that they're madly in love with each other, which is an interesting way for our book to go forward. Like, what
It's
do you
like,
do with that? Like,
yeah.
before this happened, she was madly in love with him too. And he like can't fathom that he would have done any of this and that they aren't still together and madly in love. So it's definitely got some angst. I honestly thought I might feel a little more angsty in it and a little more emotional. So I think that's what held me back from the 5, but it's still
Yeah.
like it is a solid 4.5.
It's a great read still. I agree with you.
Yes,
I
I
thought I'd
loved
feel
it.
a little more angsty. I didn't get all the angst that I was expecting, but it
Yeah.
was great. It was so good. So yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So for my next, I went back with Neva Altai only because I wanted to listen to the audio of this one, and I'm getting ready to read the two that
That
I
is a
haven't.
beautiful book.
Okay, so I just have to say I know my timer's going. I won the first
I
7
pressed
books.
pause for you.
Oh, thank you. I won the first 7 books in Neva Altai's Facebook group a couple weeks ago, and it is in all of her discreet covers. So like the lighting is on it, but isn't that gorgeous? They all go together. They're absolutely beautiful. So then Mandy got the books of Neva's that I had here at the house with the original covers. So
So when you
yay!
win, I win.
That's right. When I win, you win. And it was just one of those comment here and we'll draw 5 people, and that's what they did. So I have a hair that's driving me nuts. So anyhow, so that's what happened. So anyhow, this is Stolen Touches. This is my favorite thus far in the Perfectly Imperfect series. And this is about Salvatore and Malene. I call her Malene. On the audio, it was Malene or something, and I was like, huh. Have I been saying this wrong the whole time? You know what? She's still Malene in my head. I can't help it. So she is the sister to Bianca, who is our heroine from our second book. And all she ever wanted to do was become a nurse. And so she has gone to New York to do this RN program. She's in like a program at the hospital, like a residency type program. And you have what did I say his name? This was Salvatore. Salvatore is the Don of the Familia in New York, and he is cruel. Like if anybody from the other mafia shows up in his city, they go back in pieces to their own city. Like they're not allowed. And he sees her one day in the hospital parking lot. He's leaving. He is missing part of his leg, so he's an amputee, and he's missing, his hand isn't working right. He sees her, he becomes infatuated with her, and he realizes who she is. And instead of sending her back in body parts, he's like, well, you can marry me. End of story. And calls her brother, who's in charge of the mafia, and that's what happens. I love it. You don't gotta wine and dine him. Just capture him and marry him. It's just perfect. Yeah. So it's still my favorite, but I need to now go read. I'll skip the really emotional one that's next because I've already read that one too, but I need to go finish the other ones that are out there.
How many do you have left to read?
Just 2.
Okay.
Just the 2 latest.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about your next book.
These
lights are getting hot. I shouldn't have put a sweater on. I thought I was safe, but nope. Just saying.
Okay. So my next book is What's Left of Me by Kristen Granada. She is a new to me author, and I am eager to read more of her books. I really enjoyed this. So solid 4-star on this one. It's about Callie and Cole. Cole is bitter and he's hurting, and he moves in to his sister's pool house in this fancy affluent neighborhood, which he like doesn't like affluent people. So he's like pissed that he's there. Doesn't like anybody really. He's got some issues. Callie lives next door, and he kind of pokes at her a little bit because she lives in this like beautiful home and has all these fancy things. But what he doesn't know at first is that her husband is awful, and he has been being very abusive to her. So this is kind of their story of them both having trauma and hurt in their lives and trying to figure out a way forward. I loved it. Loved it. It was so good. I love her writing, and I can't wait to read more.
Yay. Okay. So
And I still had 3 seconds left.
Good.
Go me.
Go you. Okay. So the next book that I read is the trilogy, and I'm just going to talk about the first book. So I did a reread of First Comes Blood by Lilith Vincent because we were going to be meeting Lilith Vincent when we got down to Vegas. So the day before, that's what I did. I listened to all these. These were all 4 and 5 stars when I listened to them the first time. They still are this time. So this is about Kiara. It's her 17th birthday when we start out our story, and she is told by her father, who I believe he was the mayor. I think he was a big political dude in their town. She's told that they're going to have 4 visitors that night. And so for her birthday, 4 men show up to the house, and they are all young but powerful mafia type men. They're all best friends. And she soon learns that she has to marry, on paper, one of them within a year on her 18th birthday, but she will be in a relationship with all 4 of them because they share. They're good like that. They share with each other. And her mother's like, I will help you get out of this. But something tragic happens that night, and it changes the course of the whole story. So, and it keeps you guessing. Love it. I love this whole trilogy. It is awesome. The audio is great. Go read it. Go read it. And I already had this one signed by Lilith. That's why I didn't pick this one up when we were there. Just so you know.
Thank you for letting me know.
You're so welcome.
I was on the edge of my seat.
I knew you were curious. You're like, wait, she didn't get that book when we were there. That would be why.
Honestly, you got so many books that I probably couldn't even tell you how many books you got.
I was waiting for that. Okay, anyhow.
Could you name off all the books I got? I got less than you, but could you name them all?
But I know what you got from Lilith.
Well, yeah.
I know what you got from S.J. Kelly. I know what you got from Sarah Jane.
Well, I know what you got from those people too.
Okay, see?
But everyone else, I couldn't tell you.
There's a few other ones I know what you got. Okay, go.
Okay. When it's my turn to talk, you can start writing them all down, and we'll see how well you do.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay, my next book was kind of disappointing. It's Looking to Score by Ali Ciz. I'm not sure how you say that.
Yeah.
So I gave it 3 stars, which may have been generous, but again, it's a trilogy. I only read book 1, and I was bored. I did not want to continue. So I felt like it's rude to like give it a 1 or a 2 when I didn't finish the trilogy, because maybe things really pick up and make sense after you read book and 2 and 3. I don't know. I didn't want to know. So this is about Mason, who we call Casanova. He's a football player. What are you doing?
Laughing at you. Just go.
Anyway, he's a football player at the college, and Kayla's there. She's a cheerleader, but she doesn't want people to know she's a cheerleader. She has a famous football like brother who's in the NFL, but she doesn't want anybody to know that. Her brother's wife raised her. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and then I was confused. Did I miss something? Was there another book I should have read first? I don't know. She calls everyone by their initials, which just sort of irritated me. So it really just kind of like, if you've watched our channel, you know that I am all about the football player bad boy. So I thought I was going to love this book, but it just wasn't for me. It felt very, I don't want to say childish, but like very YA. Like, I don't mind reading YA if you've got depth to it, but this just didn't have that feeling. And there's a lot of other characters, and normally other characters you get excited about and you're like, "Ooh, I hope that person has a book." Like, I just didn't care about anybody in this. So if you've read this and you really enjoyed it, like, leave me a comment and tell me like that I missed out and I should have read book 2 and 3. Maybe things make more sense. I don't know. But I have almost 700 books on my TBR, so I don't read.
You're not wasting your time going back. No.
I don't want to read it after that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you
so
shouldn't
let
have
me
to.
know if I missed out. Otherwise, 3 stars.
Okay. So my next book though was good. I'm just gonna put that out there. So
I'm
I
happy
read.
for you.
Thank you. The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate. This is the third series or third book in Kate Sewells's Rejected Mate pack. 5 packs. It's 5 packs. It's called the 5 pack series. So this one takes us back to the Quarry Pack, which we met in the very first book. And I was anticipating this book because we find out a little bit about this in the first book, but we don't get the details. So this is about Mary and her mate. Now we know from the first book that her mate lives outside, like she knows who her mate is, but they're not mated. There's something happened there because he is so much older than her, and he lives outside of the pack as like this lone wolf kind of situation. He lives more in his wolf form than not, and he's out there. He's on the outskirts of the pack, not because he doesn't accept it, but for reasons. Well, now we've got their story. Now we know why. There's this huge age gap between them. And I don't know that we ever get a number as far as how many years. I think it's less than 20, but definitely more than 10. But there's a big age gap between them. He has a very violent wolf that doesn't agree with him. And there's a lot going on in this book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Mary's this little tiny cute thing that, you just want her to have her happily ever after because it's all she wants. But she gets stuck with a guy who's very gruff and very rough around the edges. But I loved it. I love this series. So if you're into that, this is the series for you.
Okay.
Okay,
my next book is Who is Sarah Randle by Gail Harris. This has recently just been changed and it's now called Stolen Hearts. So if you go looking for it, it's now Stolen Hearts. So this is about Sarah, whose mom dies, and when her mom dies, I think she's 17 at the time. And her mom dies, and she finds out that her mom is not actually her mom. Her mom kidnapped her when she was a baby, moved several states away, and raised her as her own. So this all happens at the very beginning of the book. And so then the police are contacted, and she ends up having to go and live with her biological family. And from there, this is just them trying to work through everything that's going on. A lot of things happen in this book that could possibly, like, if you need to check your triggers, you're going to want to for this book, because there are quite a few other things that happen in this book that could possibly be concerning for some readers. Sorry, I can't hold a book and switch at the same time.
it's okay.
I rated it a 3-star. It was okay, but there were just times where things were happening where I was like, it just didn't feel right to me. Like how not that the characters themselves were doing things that made me angry. I was adopted at birth. And so I at times would like there was a period of my life where I started to like worry a little bit because there were things like happening on the news where there was this girl who was adopted, and her dad didn't give like notification, like didn't sign off on it or something, and so she had to go live with her biological family and she was ripped away. And I remember seeing that and it kind of freaked me out and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so there were times in my childhood that I thought about like, what would I do? So when she kind of willingly goes with them, like she has an aunt who would have taken her and when her mom dies, but she's like, no, I'll be fine, I'll go live with them. There were just some times where she like, I'm like, but this was your mom. Like you had no, like you loved your mom. They had a very good relationship and everything. So it was just weird to me that she was able to kind of flip that switch and it worked. She did work through some things, but to me, it just didn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
And that's more on my own experiences than, anything else. So sometimes, your own experiences can kind of sway how you feel about a book.
Speaking of, that is perfect. I'm glad you read that one before I read this one. So let's talk about my next read and personal experiences before we get into the review. So you guys know that we've talked about it. I'm very open about it here on our channel that I had a mastectomy in 2020 and I had hysterectomy because I have the breast cancer gene. I'm a BRCA2 positive person. So I had to have all that stuff done because my chances of getting breast or ovarian cancer were really, really high. And so we've looked around for like romances that feature that, and they're really, really hard to find. And the ones that we have found or that I found have not been, I mean, they've been good. There's always something that I can pick apart in it because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's not 100% accurate, but okay. Because in most of the books, the person has cancer, right? So I don't relate to that because I didn't have cancer. But I just happened to find an author on TikTok because apparently there was a little bit of drama in the book talk world when you and I were gone that we don't normally pay attention to anyway. But it led me to this other author, this indie author.
We are a drama-free channel.
Yeah, so we don't try not to pay attention.
The only drama we bring is between you and I.
It's our own. It's our own. So I happened to find this author on TikTok, and she has a trilogy, and it's called, she calls it where did I write it down? Right at the very top, the Unbrackable Woman series. And we've always talked about how I am the ice queen, and nothing takes me down. A rom-com chicklet fade to black took me down this week, guys. Seriously, this one took me down because it was so on point and it was so accurate. And I've really enjoyed talking with the author this week. So let me tell you about this book. And then we can talk afterwards if we want to. But so this is called Ready for Whatever, and it's by Catherine R. Beale, and it is about our heroine. She is a teacher. Millie is her name. So she is a teacher, and she has lost her mom and her grandma to cancer, and so she's dating a guy. She's going to go get on the pill. And her doctor said, because she's BRCA1, that, we need a test because birth control can sometimes exacerbate that. Cancer situation in a BRCA patient. And so they wanted to test her. So they test her, she's positive. And so she decides before ever having a family that she's going to have the hysterectomy and oophorectomy, and then she's going to have the mastectomy. And so she moves forward with all of that. And then our story picks up right after surgery. She's had breast implants. I had something different, but she's had breast implants. And then she is trying to recover and she's trying to heal from all of this. And she finds a support group. And in the meantime, she has the hot single dad from school has arranged, like he ran into her in the grocery store right after surgery right after surgery. And he saw something wasn't right. So he arranged like a meal train for her. And he has been there like checking in on her and he's there for her. And so this is their story, but this is ultimately her story of learning to love her new body, learning to cope with it, learning to cope with the things that people say when they do not understand, because it is not a boob job and it is not a tummy tuck. And it is so much more than that. And, when people say to you, you're lucky it's not cancer. Am I though? Am I? I mean, yeah, but really? That's what you're going to go with? The things that came up in this book, it dragged up so much of the emotions. I loved it. It was a quick listen for me, but it's a trilogy. I'm going to move on with it, with the whole trilogy. But I mean, I gave it 5 stars. And part of that was my emotional attachment. Loved it. Loved it. Why do you look bored?
I'm not. I'm just thinking about what I want to say and how I want to say it so I don't come off like insensitive to other people. I think that people sometimes say things without knowing how
Mhm.
to talk to somebody. And like somebody who's like, oh, you're lucky it's not cancer. Well, you know, my mom died of cancer. My dad died of cancer. Like,
Mhm.
and I can go on and on and on of all the people that I've loved that have died from cancer. So I can totally see like saying, you're lucky it's not cancer. But that's like kind of saying, like, for, when things happen, like, I mean, I was in a pretty horrific accident and like couldn't walk for 6 months. Well, you could be like, well, at least you're gonna be able to walk again. Like, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely a positive. But when you're going through that, like thinking about the way everything could be like 100% like worse
Mhm.
doesn't make that situation better in that moment. Like,
No, it
yes,
does.
we always have things we can be thankful for. And yes, there's always people who have it worse, but our feelings are our feelings. And like when
Mhm.
things happen that are difficult, like trying to look at it in a positive way sometimes needs to happen, but we also need to be able to grieve and deal with what's happening too. Because if you only are like, well, at least it's not this, at least it's not that, you're never really
Yeah.
dealing with what's going on.
Yeah, and I had to go through 3 months of counseling before my mastectomy in order to just get to that point where I could look at it as a positive thing. But people don't know what to say. And if you say these things to
Yes.
people, it's just you just don't know. And I didn't before this either, because I had friends, not Mandy, but I had people say to me, "Oh, you are so lucky. I wish I could have a boob job and a tummy tuck," because the lower portion of my belly was removed to create boobs, right? So to the outside person, that's what it looked like. For me, it was a transplant. I had a my breasts were removed, they were scraped out, they were dug out. That is the worst surgery. I mean, I thought I was tough until I went through that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then I had the expanders that felt like snow globes sitting on my chest. Then they got infected. And then I had the transplant, right? And it was, 8 weeks of not being able to move my arms, 8 weeks of not being able to make meals for my family or move at all with drains hanging everywhere. So, yes, am I lucky it wasn't cancer? Yeah. But that's not typically that's not what I wanted to hear at that point in time. Or
It's not
the
the same
whole,
thing.
it's not the
It's
same
just
thing.
not the same
No,
thing.
no. And it's not like people when they have cancer, and I notice this more now. I notice it more now that I've done it. When people are going through something, and not necessarily cancer, just anything, people are like, "Oh, you've got this." I hated hearing that because it was like, "Yeah, I do," but it's not because I chose to have like. Normally now when I see somebody going through things, especially something like this, I tell them, "You are welcome to your feelings. You are going to have amazing days. You are going to have crappy days, and you need to embrace all the days, and just know that if you need anything, I'm here for you." And that is what I tell people now, because saying to somebody, "You got this," doesn't always work. It actually it bothers me a lot. And I used to say it all the time, but then when people started saying it to me, I was like, "Yeah, but I don't have a choice. I have to." Like, yeah, I have to have this because I have to. If I want to be here for my kids, I have to.
I am
So
trying to think, did I ever tell you you've got this?
probably
I can't remember.
it
You had
didn't bother
so
me.
many surgeries. I probably ran out of things to say.
I had 8 in 2 years, and it didn't bother me as much until I started with the support group that I was in and talking with other women, and then I'd be like, "Guess that does bother me. Yeah, it does bother me." When they would talk about their friends referring to their thing like their breast like referring to it as a breast augmentation when that's not what we had done. And it's so much harder to recover from because again, it's all they scrape you out. And I don't have nipples, but in my book she got to keep her nipples. You know how jealous I am? No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. Okay, let's move on before let's lighten up the heavy. I don't want to preach to anybody. it's just when you don't know, you don't know. But totally read these books. They are amazing, and they give you that perspective of what it's like emotionally for someone to have to choose to, and I hate to use this word, but it's the best way to describe it, to mutilate their body
Mm-hmm.
to be here for their family. That's what I did. But I
I
do
don't
love
think
my
anybody
body.
can really judge until they're in that position of staring down, like you have this 90% chance that at some point in time you're going to have cancer. So do you
Yeah.
want to sit and worry and worry and worry and that you're going to get it or they're going to catch it too late? Or do you want to be proactive and do something now?
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so until you're in that position, you'll never know. But I think it's just always important to remember that when people are saying things, unless you know the person is just a jerk, to just understand that they're trying to come from a good place. And then if
Yeah.
you have that relationship, you can always talk with them and be like, hey,
Yeah.
this is a
And
better
I was
way
I
of
was always good
approaching
about
this.
that too. I mean, people would say things to me, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, thank you." I wouldn't complain until I got you on the phone, um, but my close friends knew, they knew, and I would never be that type of person to be like, "No, don't say that to me," because most people just don't know.
Yeah.
They don't, and it's like when I was young and people would have like family that would die, I would have no clue what to say because I had my great grandparents when I was seniors in high school, right, or senior in high school. I didn't know people who hadn't died around me, so I didn't know what to say to people. It's the same thing. You just don't know.
I still don't know what to
I
say.
know.
And I've experienced, my mom and dad both and other family members. And
Yeah. So on that note, let's just go read them. She deserves it. These books were great. Mandy, on to you.
all right.
Okay.
My next book is called Ranger by Katie Ray. This is a new author to me as well, but I love this book, so I'll be reading more of hers. This was 5 stars for me. This is about Olivia and Ranger slash Andrew. Olivia is running away from an abusive relationship. She's in a very kind of mentally weakened state, and she's trying to prep herself because she knows she's being abused, and she's kind of trying to figure out how she's going to fight back. And she hears this car coming up the driveway and she's done and she takes off running through the woods. She's not prepared at all, but she just runs. And Andrew is a ranger in the military, and he is on a mission by himself. It's like a training mission. So he's been dropped in the woods and he has to make his way back out. And I think he has like 10 or 14 days to do this. And while he's doing that, he stumbles upon Olivia. And from there, he has to make some decisions. Like, what does he do? He's supposed to be doing this mission, but he's found her. So, how does this play out?
How do we
I
do that?
loved it. If you decide to read this, there was one point where I was like, I'm getting a little bit bored, but I kept reading and it was amazing. So if you read it and you're like, I don't know, keep reading because it gets better. But I was also reading on the plane, and sometimes when I'm reading like on a
Yeah.
plane, I tend to get a little bit bored because you're like sitting in your plane seat and there's strangers sitting
And
next
you're
to
like
you. And
this.
you're just ready to get off the plane. So I can't
Mm-hmm.
100% say that, but if you feel that way, just keep going because it is amazing.
Mm-hmm. I can never get comfortable on a plane. I have a hard time getting
Yeah.
comfortable in general, like just because I don't feel half of my body. But uh, on the plane, yeah, definitely. And my shoulders are really broad. So there was a baseball team on the plane coming down from here. They were playing in Vegas, and all them boys, they got broad shoulders. And so do I. And yeah, it was very hard getting comfortable.
When this was the first time I've flown alone in a really long time. Uh, and I like as I got on the plane, I'm like, why didn't I just pay for myself to fly first class?
Okay, so I went from rom-com chicklet to crazy, crazy, crazy dark. Okay, so this is A Little Stranger by Lee Rivers. This is about Malachi and Olivia. So when they're little, Olivia, I think she's 7, and Malachi is 8. Both of them are, so Olivia was adopted first. So she was adopted as a toddler by a woman who is a judge, and her husband is a lawyer. And now that she's adopted Olivia, she stays home with Olivia. And then they decide to adopt Malachi. Now, both of these kids have come from very horrendous home life background situations. Malachi does not speak. He can hear, He has spoken, but because of his trauma, he does not. And he just uses ASL at this point, and he's pretty much forgotten how to speak. And they grow up together. But the minute he gets off the plane and the family, signs the paperwork to adopt him and keep him, he starts doing the sign for mine for Olivia. And he has this unnatural, or this connection to Olivia. She is his from the day he meets her. And he has this possession over her. Now he does have, I can't remember what it was. It was this personality dissociative disorder or whatever it was. It's listed in there. I'm totally butchering it. I've got it wrong. But as they get older, this attachment as siblings becomes more. So much more in their late teens. And then later we have a time jump because of something happening. But 5 stars, done. Dark. It was dark. It was taboo. It was 5 stars.
I need to go read that.
Yeah, you do.
My hair is doing all sorts of wild stuff today.
But they're both adopted. They're not blood related, which to me, I can say that. Now, you were adopted. You didn't have siblings that were adopted with you, but I can see how for you it might hit a little different than it does for me. But I was like, what's the big deal? You're fine.
Well, I don't have siblings, so I can't really think about it that way, but I could think about like my cousins and stuff, and that's like my family.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm
It's
here
fiction.
For the taboo reads.
It's fiction.
Exactly.
It's not real. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Tell me about your next book.
Okay. My next book is called Stay With Me by Nicole
Fiorina.
I'm not good with these names. So this is a trilogy. I've only read the first book. I'm working on the second book right now. And right now I'm at a 4-star with this. It could possibly be more, but I feel like it's really hard to judge the first book when you haven't finished the trilogy. So Mia has a lot of hurt in her life, and she acts out like she drove her stepmom's BMW purposely through the garage. And this was kind of like the final straw. And so her dad is wealthy. And so he keeps her from going to jail, but he sends her off to this college that is basically an institution. So she's going to school, or it's called a university, and it's overseas in like England, I think. And so she's going to this school, but like she has a dorm, but like the doors lock at a certain time, and they have a psych ward and all of that stuff. So she has a little bit of freedom, but for the most part, she's kind of like she's in an institution. Mm-hmm. She meets Ollie here, and Ollie, there's stuff going on with Ollie that we don't really know why he's there when the book first starts, but they start to kind of form this attachment. But Mia doesn't have feelings. She has shut all of them off, and so she just doesn't feel anything. And so this is their story. So far, I'm loving it.
Hey, I've heard good things about it. So,
yeah.
I'm interested to see what you think of the rest of it.
Me too.
Okay, who's ready for some Ruby Dixon? Because that's where we went next.
Ruby of course we did.
Of course, because she just had a new release this week, and I have to get there. So I had this one, then I have the one I'm in right now, and then I'll be at the new one. So this is book 17 in Ice Home. This is Floor's Fiasco. This is the last book in the original spinoff of Ice Planet Barbarians, and then we get to the spinoff of the spinoff is what's next. So this is about Eric and Floor. Now, they are not supposed to resonate to each other. Everybody's been paired off at this point, except for 4 people. And these two everybody expects them to resonate or to become mates of the other 2 people. And the day that Tia, this young girl that Arek has been writing, he's over here, has been writing letters to because she's at the other village, shows up after 2 or 3 years of being 3 years of being gone, he's resonating to Floor. And she is his mate and not this young girl. And he's been pining for her for years, but it's this one. And so this is like, how do they work this out? I gave it 4 stars. I always give Ruby Dixon 4 stars. That's just it. I love this world, this planet. It did get a little annoying when Floor kept going, but you love Tia. And he's like, no, dude, you're my mate. And he kept saying it to her over and over again. It got a little obnoxious, but it was still 4 stars. I love being on that cold ass planet. Plus, it sets up the next series in this book.
Okay.
Next.
I forgot to hold my book up.
Oh, there it is. Stay with me.
Why did I forget to hold it up?
I don't know. So now you'll still have to put the picture in because people need to see it before you hold it up.
But here's my book.
Okay, there's your book. Okay. All right.
Okay, so next I read a book that I was really, really wanting to read.
Is this BJ's?
No.
Oh.
By Fate I Conquer by Cora Riley.
Oh, yeah.
This is about, I like to call him Ammo, but his name is Ammo and Greta.
He's not ammunition.
Oh, but he is. Ammo and Greta. Ammo is Luca and Aria's son. And then Greta is Remo and Serafina's daughter. And so we have opposite ends of the mafia world here. The two families are feuding and kind of getting ready to go to war with each other. They've never liked each other. Remo and Luca do not like each other. And so one time Luca happens to go to Remo's place. He brings Amo. See, this is why I should not have called him Ammo through the whole book in my head. With him, he ends up seeing Serafina, and there's like this immediate attraction to each other. But Amo is already in an arranged marriage because he's kind of being punished for making some really stupid choices as a teen. And so he can't act on his feelings for Greta, but also he can't act on his feelings for Greta because she is in the wrong family for that. But yet both of them are definitely drawn to each other. And this has some angst to it. I rated it a 4-star because it kind of felt like there were times where it could have been a little more angsty, but I still really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the drama could have been played out a little differently, but I loved it still.
But don't you love that? Like we both read the same 2 Cora Riley books within the last month.
Yes.
You gave one a 5-star that I gave a 4-star. The one that I gave a 5-star, you gave a 4-star. Like,
oh, really?
Seriously. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So, I mean, that just goes to show there's different preferences, but it was still a great book when you look at the underlining.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brain isn't functioning to think of words right now.
I'm sorry.
But they'll get it.
Yes.
Okay. So for my last book for the week, I read Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels. This is a nanny romance. I love me some good nanny romance. So this is about Asher and Phoebe. So Asher is a single father. His daughter, I think she's like 8 or 9, and she is deaf. The baby mama had preeclampsia, and baby was born prematurely, and because of the preeclampsia, they say that's what caused her to be deaf. And so the mom they're good friends. They never were in a relationship. Mom has left the country for like 3 months on assignment for something, and he has to take custody of his daughter during that time. So they get along, no drama here, no baby mama drama here. But then you have Phoebe. She's coming home from college. Something bad has happened. She was like in grad school. Something bad happened at college. She's not willing to talk about it. Her dad is the chief or the sheriff or whatever. And our main male character, he is also on the police force. And when he finds out that her dad finds out that Asher needs a nanny because the nanny agency has nobody who can do ASL, he says, well, Phoebe, that is what her degree is in, and she can do it, so she can nanny while she's here, especially if you're hard up. So she goes over there to nanny, and it's only supposed to be for a short period of time, but it you know what happens, right? I mean, it's a nanny romance, so I give it 4 solid stars. I love Corinne Michaels. She can do no wrong. So yeah,
I want you to read that.
I know. Next. So it's all you now. That was it. I'm out.
Okay, bye. Okay, my next book is one that you will want to read, Jessica.
Yes. I'm waiting
Daddy's
for the audio.
Addiction by BJ Alpha.
Love BJ.
Whew. So this is a shorter book, so you're going to get more of those novella vibes with this. This is about Tommy. Tommy is not spiraling. He has already spiraled. Let's just put it that way. He's doing coke off of, boobs. He orders his women like every day. I mean, he has done spiraled. Jade is his stepdaughter, who he has never met because this is mafia world. So there was an arranged marriage and she's been off at boarding school. She comes home and she's wearing her schoolgirl uniform. And he has also ordered somebody. So he's like, woohoo, you're like the best one they've ever sent to me. And he is all over her when his butler is like, sir, you have the wrong person. And so things kind of just escalate from there. This is a wild ride. There are a lot of kinks in here. Kinks that I never thought I would even ever read about.
Wait. We spent a lot of time with BJ Alpha and her assistant. Kinks that you would look at her and say, I can see her writing?
No. So if you like meet Becky and talk to her, I'm like, wow.
You wrote that, huh?
Yeah.
Except for when I looked at her and I was like, breeding kinks. She's like, yeah. So
yeah. So I got this sticker from her when I bought this book. Can you see it?
Yeah, just the tip.
Yeah. It's not going where you think it's going.
Yeah.
I think if I were to see her again and be like, let's talk about this book, I would have a hard time keeping a straight face in the conversation.
Now you know why her PA Katie was like, that butt.
Yeah. So, Daddy's Addiction is a 5-star read. Now, if I pick this book up and I was expecting something deep like Don't Kiss the Bride, or if I that's what I was reading for, then I would probably be like, oh no. But this is a 5-star read for what it is. Like, I loved it. I had a hard time putting it down. I love that taboo stuff. But there's something that happens in here. And I just wanted to be like, but wait, after that, we need to purchase a new mattress.
You told me about that. Becky.
This is gross.
Okay. Becky.
But I was here for it. I loved it. Go pick this book up and read it. If you're in the mood, it's called Daddy's Addiction. If you're in a mood for a read like this, you will not be disappointed.
And audio is coming for that one. They just announced it this week. I'm waiting for that. I want the audio. Oh yeah.
All right.
I don't know. We don't have a date yet, but I do want the audio. So, okay.
I can imagine listening to that on audio. My mouth would probably just be hanging open the whole time, and I'd be like, is anybody else hearing this? Oh no.
Definitely not one to listen to when the kids could possibly be getting in the car with you.
Or when you're pulling up anywhere where somebody might hear it outside your vehicle.
Well, you've got that Hemi that drowns things out in your car. Mine is a Prius. It's for gas purposes, it's really high in Washington. Anyhow,
if we like,
it's really quiet. My car is really quiet. So if I have a book on, you can hear it from the outside. Are you okay?
Yeah, I do. I have a Scat Pack, so it definitely has a loud growl, so that probably helps me out. But yeah.
Yeah.
You're saving like the half of the environment that I'm apparently destroying.
I just want cheaper gas. I just don't want to put gas. It's the gas price.
Yeah, I have to buy premium.
Yeah, no. So, okay.
Sometimes I drive my son's car because it gets way better gas mileage. I'm like, let's take your car.
Yeah, so much better. Yeah. Okay. What else you got?
So the next book was a 3-star read. I was a little disappointed because it's Puckaholic, which is in the series that I've been reading by Valentina. I really enjoy her books normally, but this was a 3-star for me. I just got bored. This is about Diana and Tanner and Wanda the pig. So normally I like her quirky stuff, and that part was fun. That's probably what kept it at a 3-star. But this is Diana needs somewhere to live. She doesn't want relationships because she's heartbroken over previous relationships. So she's like, I have horrible taste in men. I can't be trusted. I'm just out. Tanner is her brother's teammate on the hockey team, and he's staying somewhere and he has like an extra room, so he's like, sure, she can room here with me for a while. And so that's how their relationship that's how they meet. And well, they actually meet before that, and then they like are thrown together in, I guess, like kind of a forced proximity type situation. And thank goodness my time is up, so I'm just babbling here. But it felt overdone. And sometimes you're like, well, like the nanny trope you just talked about, that's done a lot.
Yeah.
But if it's done well, it's a
It's
brand new
good,
story.
right?
This just
Yeah.
kind of felt like the same thing. Oh, teammate's brother. Oh, your heart's been broken and you don't want to find love again. It just didn't have anything. I mean, Wanda the pig was a little aggressive, but that did add something to the book.
But you have to have
But there
another
was nothing
thing.
else. I just got bored and I
Yeah.
kind of didn't even care if they ended up together. Now, that could have just been me because normally I really like her, but for whatever reason, I just didn't care for this one.
Yeah. See, like with the nanny book I just read, there is a trauma that's happened, which is what's brought her home from college that we find out, like a scandal type situation. So there's that extra something that sets it apart from other nanny books. And if you're gonna write within a trope that's been done a lot, then you have to have something like that. You just do something to set it apart.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So your last book.
This book is Beautifully Broken Pieces by Catherine Cowles. This was a solid 4-star read. I really enjoyed it. It is Catherine Cowles, so you know there's going to be a murder mystery, so you don't want to go to Sutter Lake. Dun, dun, dun. So this is about Taylor and Walker. Taylor's mom passed away, and she is just really struggling with kind of making, I don't want to say making peace with it, but kind of making peace with it and being able to move forward in her life. She just has all this hurt from her mom dying because her mom was kind of like a very important person to her. And so she kind of feels alone, even though she has friends. And so she's just kind of struggling to maybe put her life back together after this has happened. So she decides to stay at Sutter Lake and get a job and just kind of take a break from everything. And she wants to close her heart off. She does not want any more heartache. I struggled a little bit with how she felt and how she reacted to this. But Walker also has some hurt going on. He's the cop in the town, and there's some murders happening, and him and Taylor kind of get thrown together a little bit because it's his sister's tea shop that she's working at, and they invite her to rent a cabin on their property. So she's kind of thrown into his family that way, and that's how that kind of starts. I really, really enjoyed the book, though. It was a 4-star read.
Good. I read that one this summer. Yeah. 4-star.
Don't go to Sutter Lake.
No, don't go to any lake or any town that Catherine Cowles writes about. So, no. All right,
Not
guys.
safe.
No, it's not safe. No. Okay, so that is all that we have for you this week.
Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us, and Wednesdays through the rest of this year for our romance school. Make sure that you leave us some comments. Tell us, have you read any of these books that we've read? What was your favorite read from this week? Tell us all the bookish things.
Yep. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.